So I am trying something new with YouTube. They seem to always mess with this goes across the
Just
board.
use the word algorithm.
Algorithm. Okay.
Use it in a sentence for me.
So I went to the store and they were all out of algorithms.
What'd you buy instead? Pancakes?
Yeah.
Algorithm does sound like a food, though. It
does.
sounds like it could be like asparagus.
Yo, dude, you guys got to
algorithm.
come over. My wife makes some sick algorithms.
Yeah.
Not bad, right?
Not bad at all.
You're like, yeah. all
Someone
right.
like if you didn't know, then I'd believe it.
You're like, maybe that's some rich people.
Yeah.
some shit I don't know about.
An algorithm or a Piedmontese steak. Like,
Mm.
don't know which one to go with, right?
I'll go for that steak every time. I've been eating a lot of steak, actually, like more than normal, because I've been fasting longer, and then so every time it's time to eat, I've been super excited. I went to In-N-Out Burger last night, and I've been frustrated because I haven't been able to get a hold of my Piedmontese because in the new house, the fridge is set up. It's this beautiful refrigerator. You guys could live inside there. This thing's so fucking monstrous.
Sick.
I'm
my God.
gonna be so fat. It's gonna be horrible. But I got plenty of room for all that Piedmontese. But guess what? The freezer ain't working.
No.
So you're living my life.
Yeah.
What I just experienced.
Yeah,
You are becoming Nsima the
I
way
know.
we've been trying.
I've been trying.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, broken freezer. I'm like, boom, write that down.
Some things you just got to do. You got to experience it.
I'm
Yeah.
like, what else do I need to do?
I was telling Chris Bell, I'm like, dude, I'm getting real, like obviously, I get nervous about a lot of things. But I'm like, man, yesterday the weather was like looking like it was going to start raining. Like, how am I going to, like, I know I can still grill outside, but like, I don't want my grill to get messed up. I don't have like a canopy or anything. So I guess I can adapt back
Air fryer.
to the air fryer,
Ah.
but I don't want to. It's so,
Do you want to be in Nsima?
yes.
Then what you got to do?
You said I have to drink a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah.
And use the air fryer.
Oh, okay.
Simple, man. Just these simple things can allow you to make that change.
Yeah.
It's a slow transformation, but it's a good transformation. It's
Yeah.
something you just got to do.
Yeah, I've been tearing up the flat iron steaks.
Mm.
So for one whole steak, it's 4 grams of fat, 26 or 46. Sorry, I don't remember the label. 46 grams of protein.
Oh my god.
No carbs, and it falls in line perfectly with what I kind of started and what I got going on, which we'll get into later.
You're doing like a bodybuilding kind of style diet, right?
Yeah. So Mark and Nsima are helping me out with the macros and the workouts and all that. So I have to keep the fat low, protein high, carbs high-ish, thanks to Nsima programming that stuff for me. It's just excellent. It's so good too. It doesn't look like your typical like steak that you want in
It
the
just
store.
looks like muscle.
Yeah. It looks like it's going to be tough, but you cut into it and it's amazing.
It is.
We highly recommend it. You guys need to head over to Piedmontese.com. That's PIEDMONTESE.com. At checkout, enter promo code Power Project for 25% off. And if your order is $99 or more, you get free 2-day shipping.
Fair warning for anyone quickly who gets these steaks. Like, they cook faster than your
Oh yeah,
typical
you got to
steak.
pay attention to them.
Yeah, because like if you cook it like a normal steak, that thing will be overcooked.
Yeah, how'd they figure that out?
Yeah, I'm happy with it.
Yeah,
I'm
it's crazy. Yeah.
I ran to Phil's today, and while I was going there, I was thinking of you guys.
Thank you so much.
And I was like, I got to get these guys some coffee. And then I was like, oh, it'd be cool to, blend in and throw in some of the perfect keto products. So in mine, I threw in the coffee, the ketone base, which, to be perfectly honest, doesn't taste amazing. Ketones just don't taste amazing. There's not a way to mask it. They are a sponsor of the show, but I like to give people fair warning. They don't taste amazing. Ketones are just always going to be kind of gross, but they did a good job masking the flavor, and I put some in my coffee every morning. If I don't do the ketones and I do MCT oil powder, they have vanilla, chocolate. They might have an unflavored one. I don't know if they have another flavor beyond that, but when I use those, the advantage with MCT is a medium chain triglyceride. That kind of fat is supposed to turn into ketones faster. So with a ketone product, you have the straight beta hydroxybutyrate, BHB. You got straight up ketones. with the MCT powder or MCT oil, you have MCTs, which can convert over to ketones, which can give you energy. And then so I brought the coffee in for you guys today. You guys mixed it with another product from Perfect Keto.
The nootropic.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. And that has actual ketones in it. And I think it has MCT powder in it as well.
Yeah, I was really concerned. I talked to Nsima about it. I'm like, okay, so I'm fasting. Like, can I still like indulge? And I say indulge because it does taste really good, especially with this coffee.
That one's got a dark chocolate feel to it.
Yep.
doesn't
Yeah,
it?
I'm like, is that okay? Like, I'm fasting. Like, to me that doesn't make sense. I'm gonna have something that tastes incredible. Plus, it has a little bit of fat. Like, am I good to go? And then Nsima replied with,
It's like 3.5 grams of fat.
Mhm.
It's literally nothing.
yeah,
You know?
yeah, and it said that, like, and you know, we talk about this all the time. You guys are where you are, and I'm where I am, and so I have what you guys might think of as a silly question like that, but I'm like, I genuinely, like, I don't know.
No, I
So-
don't think it's a silly question at all
Mhm.
because if you like
A
a
lot of
while
people
ago,
ask me, yeah.
I would have thought that would have been a problem too. Like when I was doing the fasting, like, won't that break my fast? So no, it's a legit question. I used to think about that same thing too.
Yeah, so even though I am trying to shred down right now, I can still enjoy this. I mean, it tastes so good, dude. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
When you're fasting and you're trying to get all the benefits of fasting, it's probably wise that you pretty much just fast and you maybe the only thing you have is black coffee. But when you're fasting and you're trying to like partition calories or you're trying to lose weight, in your case, you're trying to get abs, it's not going to hurt you to have 50 calories in the morning. Now, maybe somebody can point out like that you're not going to get autophagy and like all these other things maybe won't happen, but the calories are still so low. I can't imagine it having much of an impact. I don't even know if there's any studies on that either. I've been doing that for a long time and kind of doing these fat coffees, if you will. And I've had a lot of great results with it. I've been able to lose weight, get in good shape. So I think it'll work the same for you.
Yeah, I don't even know what autophagy really is. I just hear you guys talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
But what I do know is that this nootropic is incredible. The cinnamon flavored bars, the chocolate chip cookie dough bar from Perfect Keto is insane. You guys seriously need to check that out. Head over right now to perfectketo.com/powerproject. There you'll see like our favorites, and the number one thing right there is the nootropic. So we made it real easy for you guys to check it out. At checkout, enter promo code PowerProject, and that'll get you 15% off everything in your cart.
Real quick, Mark. Real quick. You mentioned that you like use MCT oils and other fats in your coffees. You know how like when you have like carbohydrates or something and you're fasting, that revs your hunger. Do you feel your hunger rev when you utilize fat or no? Because I've noticed the same thing personally. Like if I have this or something else, I still don't feel hungry.
I feel like the fat and or the ketones, either way you want to do it, I think it really cuts down on hunger. I think it cuts down on hunger a lot. And if you really want to try to chomp down on that hunger a little bit more, throw in some butter in there as well. It's just satiating. You know, it might not be like the greatest tasting coffee you've ever had. It's not going to be like some Starbucks, Frappuccino or something like that. But I mean, I've done that for a long time where I have a coffee like that in the morning. Maybe I'll have one or two of those, and then I'm off all the way until 2, 3, 4 o'clock. And that's going to be like my first real meal. So it works great for fasting.
Yeah, satiating for sure because especially if you're like a texture person and if you drink something thin, you're like water, you're just like, I don't really notice. But if it's a little bit thicker, a little bit creamier even because of the butter and all that, you forget that you're even hungry.
Try dumping a little salt in your coffee too. Sounds unconventional, sounds a little weird, but give it a try. Just put a little bit in, not so it changes the flavor abruptly, but just a little bit. I like to hang stuff over Nsima's head because let's face it, right? He's annoying, right?
A little bit.
He's 6'2", he's handsome, and I like when you and I have like a side thing that we can share and like he doesn't know about, like the donut Quest bar. Like I have like I have 2 boxes of it in my.
Is that all it took?
He's leaving the podcast. He's out of here.
Finally.
Yeah, I know. I have 2 boxes of it, and I was looking at it this morning. I was like, should I bring those for Nsima? And I'm like, nah. I was like, let's let him sweat it out.
Y'all are assholes.
Which bar?
Oh,
the birthday cake bar. I remember I was stuck on that one for a long time, but I think they all are.
They got a lot of good flavors.
They got great flavors, but there's nothing like a hero bar. Like if we're
That's
just
true.
If we're just being honest, that hero bar will I mean, yeah,
we need hero bars here. I guess we just
Yeah.
can't keep them around because
Yeah.
everyone's going to eat them all.
Yeah, this is gonna sound silly, but you can put that hero bar in the candy bar section right as you're checking out, like of a grocery store, and people will start buying it. They won't even understand that they're eating something that's not terrible for you.
That's one thing I've had, the hero bar, but the donut bar I haven't.
Yeah,
had
what's
yet.
your thoughts? How do you like the taste of the donut bar? Silence.
We're waiting.
It's that good, huh?
Quest, I'll give you my
Speechless.
address so you can send. I'll give you my address so you guys can send this stuff to me and not these two because they tend to not leave me any of the products. So.
That's right. It's not easy. We're getting high on our own supply over here.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I don't have any donut bars. Mark has 2 boxes. I don't have a bar.
Just sharing them with myself.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
Quest also has cookies. They got a bunch of different flavors of cookies. They got chocolate chip. They got peanut butter. They got an oatmeal raisin. And in addition to that, they got chips. They got Quest kind of like potato chips, I guess you'd say, or tortilla chips, kind of
like Dorito chips.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what it would be like. Yeah. And again, another thing that you can put in someone's face, and they'll be like, "Oh, this is an amazing chip." Like they won't know that it's healthy for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Delicious.
Yeah, so if you guys want to do the old bait and switch with somebody and take out their crappy food and insert something awesome, head over to questnutrition.com right now. Fill your cart up with these chips, these bars, these cookies, even the protein powder if you guys want to get crazy in the kitchen and bake up your own stuff. Throw those all in your cart and enter promo code MarksQuest at checkout for 20% off everything that you're just bought.
I got an announcement.
Uh-oh.
Let's hear it.
One of my besties is rolling into town. Furious Pete, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, snap.
Yeah. Yeah, what is that noise? Who created that noise?
Hip hop.
I know, but it's like a certain it's right. Like it
The
came
funny
from.
thing is, everyone knows what we're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and it ended up in a lot of songs, right?
Oh yeah. Well, and then awesome
Geo does that noise. Bart and Geo.
Yeah.
Geo makes that noise all the time. Like just as she's talking, she just says it. Like when she says something big, she does that.
Makes me happy because it was
she's funny as hell.
Like back, late night or early 2000s, like anytime somebody dropped a mixtape on like East Coast radio, it was like explosions and then
Yeah.
It
Oh
was,
my God.
How do we get that noise? We need that sound.
I
a mixer.
Yeah. Yeah, on the Roadcaster, I can have it pumped into one of the hotkeys, but
Yeah, we need that.
I just think that we're
Can I get that as a ringtone?
I was gonna say, I think
probably
we'll
can,
just do it nonstop. That we won't even have.
I
a
bet you it has a
podcast.
name. I bet you somebody's listening to this right now and they're like, that's called the,
it's
Chris
just
Griffin probably
It's
does.
an air horn, but I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
But
yeah.
Griffin would know.
You
Yeah,
know.
but Furious Pete. Furious
Yeah, what the
Pete
hell?
and his fiance Meldiva, they're coming into town, and I'm super pumped.
Wow.
He's in Yosemite. He's doing some stuff in San Francisco, and he's gonna drive down. What the hell, say Thursday, right? Today's Thursday. He's gonna
Today's
drive
Thursday.
down tomorrow,
Wow.
and I don't know how much time he has. I don't know if he's got time to come to the gym or anything like that. But if he does, I'll definitely let you guys know because that would be amazing.
That would be.
But he's having we're gonna have a sleepover. And it was so funny because when I hung up, I talked to him last night on the phone. When I hung up, I was like a little kid. I was so happy. And I went home and I told Andy, I was like, Mel and Furious Pete are coming over, and she's like, oh my God, she got all excited too. So that's gonna be the first people that we host at the new pad. I'm pumped.
You mean your compound?
Yeah.
That's what we need to call what you have. It's
Yeah.
a compound, not a
Yeah.
mansion. It's a compound.
I know. I'm gonna need like a little scooter to get to the other side of the house.
Oh my
Especially
God.
with how big the fridge is. I'm gonna end up with diabetes and not gonna be able to walk across the 6,000 square feet that we got going on over there. It's huge.
That's why I'm in this whole get up here because I'm trying to emulate wealth. So I feel like this is what wealthy people wear: red glasses, white hats, some shit that just makes absolutely no sense.
I think you're onto something.
I'm onto something here.
He looks like he's got more money now, right?
I look rich. I
Yeah.
don't look rich. I look wealthy.
Wow.
I'm twiddling my imaginary
his-
mustache
oh.
right now.
Could you grow a mustache like that?
With wealth, I could. Yeah.
Little
With enough
curly
money.
curly mustaches are great. I wish I could grow it. I can't really, I don't get my facial hair doesn't get full enough to really do much with it. How about you?
No, it doesn't. It takes me a long time to get. Yeah.
I can grow out neck hair, like right down here. I can grow out some neck hair, and that's about it.
By the way, your brother's mustache has been looking beautiful.
Yeah, he's
got
got
the whole beard.
Yeah.
Serious. Oh, his beard, not his
Yeah.
mustache,
Yeah.
his beard. Like,
Yeah.
oof, he's good.
He's been getting furry.
Hmm.
I'm going to see Seinfeld this weekend too
Oh,
on
wow.
Saturday out in Reno, and so that ought to be pretty cool.
How much did you say those tickets were? Like
you know
Seinfeld
what?
tickets are.
You know what? What you'll have to learn about being wealthy is that you don't know
doesn't
anymore.
matter.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter what your name is, right? It doesn't matter. Yeah, I don't ever look at price, but I never looked at price anyway because I don't know. I just bought whatever was appropriate for me at the time. I'm like, this is my section over here. You know what I mean? I was like, I got to buy this cheap ground beef because I have insufficient funds at my ATM machine. I remember getting many printouts that literally said that on the printout. It said insufficient funds. I was like, I didn't have enough money to even like take out because you need to have like X amount in there to like take money out of there. And then I was one of those guys that always blamed like my account and blamed my like bank that I was with.
Like,
I was like, well,
process.
I was like, that bank's a piece of shit. You know, it takes so long for it to process, and it's like, you just don't have any money. Like, let's just get down to the real facts. You ain't got no money.
Yeah, I always used to say that like you're about as useful as $19 in my bank account. Like you need 20 to pull. Yeah. Most people didn't understand that because I'm like, oh, you guys don't have less than that? Like they've never experienced that.
Yeah,
man. Seinfeld, that's gonna be awesome though. I've never been able to see him live or anything, but his comedy, I think he had a Netflix special that was pretty damn hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I got to see Joe Rogan in person too. I'd like to get to see more comedians. I need to get out of the house a little bit more and
Andrew
go.
Schulz.
Yeah, I need to check him out.
You need to check him out.
And you said he's coming here to Sacramento. Or
He's coming here,
already?
man. No, he's going to be here November. I think it's November 1st that I got the tickets for. But dude, he loves doing podcasts and stuff.
Oh shit, that would be great.
That actually would be great.
You got to reach out.
Yeah, that'd be great. But he's absolutely hilarious, man.
I know at like Calusa Casino, they always have good acts rolling through. I'll check out and see who's coming.
Yeah, I remember when I went to see Rogan, I didn't really know what his comedy would be like, and so I was talking to a friend, and I was thinking about bringing my dad. They're like, "Don't bring your dad."
Why?
And I'm like, my dad's pretty cool. Like, he don't care. Like, you know, like if they say crazy, weird stuff, I'm like, he won't care. And my friend's like, don't bring your dad. And so, like, you know, I go to the show and there's a couple acts that are just like over the top to the point where I'm sinking in my chair.
Oh,
God.
God.
I'm like, I'm glad I didn't bring my pops, you know? Because I'm like, this is pretty wild, you know?
Yeah.
It's like the one guy starts out his act and he's like, what's the best part of a blowjob? You know, he's like asking around, you know, he's asking like the audience, and people are giving all these, you know, things. He's like, no, it's when the girl goes, and so I was like, yeah, it's probably the best that I didn't bring my dad to this because I'm like, that's making me blush, you know?
Yeah, Bobby Lee's hilarious. He'll be in town the 21st, but the 27th is where we all got to go.
Oh, God.
Joey Diaz.
Yeah.
I'm going to buy those tickets.
Yeah, that's going to be crucial.
Talk about dipping down in your chair. This guy doesn't care. He's unbelievable. He's relentless.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, Joey Diaz is cool, and he'll say the N-word during a bunch of his acts, but it doesn't matter because like it really just doesn't matter. It's Joey. Joey's not racist. Joey's just cool.
Yeah, he's
you grew up around a lot of guys like that.
Well, also he's an immigrant too, and he's been called every name. So it's kind of like, you've been called those names yourself, so you're probably okay to say them here and there.
Man, honestly, like just like you saw the Chappelle special.
No, I haven't.
Still haven't. Yeah, me neither.
What is wrong with you? Both of you.
We need help.
You guys need to watch that special like today or this weekend. It's so funny. But that's the thing, like with a lot of comedians,
he's unbelievable.
He is great. A lot of people are getting like super offended with what some of these comics are saying. How about you just don't watch this?
Don't watch it. Yeah.
If you know you're going to be really sensitive to it, just don't view it. You know. But it was really funny because Chappelle's special, it got reviewed on Rotten Tomatoes, and the critics or the professional critics gave it like a 26 or 29%, and the tens of thousands of viewers gave it a 99%.
Oh, shit.
That kind of just shows you like,
I don't know what's going on with
people versus like what the media is thinking and what they want people to think versus what people actually think.
Yeah.
You know,
those ratings are hard to, you know, it's like Rotten Tomatoes. It's hard to like have it matter to you, like because
Yeah.
they might give some crap movies like really good ratings every once in a while, and you're like, ah.
They do, like with the really, really artsy ones, like
Yeah.
that.
And I wonder too, is like, are those really fan ratings too? Like, or is it just like a skewed version of what they're sharing with you?
Mhm.
Sometimes they like on certain movies where like maybe the movie got voted badly by a lot of fans. They'll take out some of the bad ratings to bring the fan rating up. So
Right.
sometimes they do that, which is not good.
Yeah, and they did the opposite for Chappelle, right? Like whenever somebody, or they just
They didn't do
that's
anything
right.
to the Chappelle one. It's just there was so much good from the actual fans, they couldn't do shit about it. It was just like it was painfully obvious.
Because they only
Overwhelming.
accepted like a handful at first, right? Is that what it was? Okay.
Yeah, but it was painfully obvious that the people like Chappelle, but the critics don't. It's it is what it is. But that special was too good, man. It was too good.
I made a post yesterday talking about fasting. I know we talk at length about fasting, and I basically I did some math, which is dangerous for everybody. Dangerous for everybody concerned. But I picked up my phone. I got a little thing on my phone that's got a calculator in it, and I punched in some numbers. And if you fast 16 hours a day, every day, you end up accumulating 20 days worth of fasting. And I made a post, and then most of the comments were pretty positive. It was really just to show people, like, look, man, in my opinion, the effort that it takes for 16-hour fasts, I do understand on a scale of like 1 to 10, it might be like an 8 or a 9 for someone that's never fasted before. But we've been fasting, we've been playing around with it, and we know how like 16-hour fast, to be asked to do that several times a week is really not much at all, And if you can kind of think, maybe even the course of 2 months, if you can fast 30 times in the course of 2 months, maybe you don't want to fast every day, maybe you do every other day. It can still lead to this nice accumulation of fasting. That's all I was really trying to point out, And again, the only reason why I pointed out is just because I think it's simple to try. It's simple to do. If I said, hey man, like, your diet's a real mess. Like I got to get you walking. We got to get your sleep better. We got to cut out a lot of carbohydrates and refined foods. You can really only eat, natural foods. You got meat, vegetables, fruit. That's pretty much your diet. On top of that, I need to get you outside and to get you walking more. I need to get you to be on a lifting program. You're like, what the, right?
Yeah.
Or if I came to you and said, hey man, I think really what we need to do is we need to work on a lot of fasting. And so tomorrow we're going to start a 20-day fast. You'd be like, what the, like most, I don't know what percentage of the population has ever really tried, long duration fasting more than like a day or two. It's probably really, really low. And people that even think of it as a remote possibility for them is probably really, really low.
Yeah.
If I went to one of my aunts, or you went to a family member and said, hey, I'm going to have you try fasting for 3 days, I'd be like, no, like I don't care what your reason is. I'm not even going to entertain that. And so I thought that this was a good way just to illustrate to people, like, look at how much work and accumulation you get back from trying something like this, which I view to be pretty simple, because if you stop eating an hour or two before bed, now you only have about 6 hours or so of being awake and not eating. And I would have to admit, and I'd have to say that for every single person that I know and every single person I can think of, those first 2 or 3 hours will actually be really easy. There's some people that wake up kind of hungry, but you're usually fairly busy in the morning. So those first 2 or 3 hours are nothing. Now we're really just talking about it making an extra 3 or 4 hours. All you're really trying to do is like skip breakfast. So 16-hour fast would mean that you would stop around, 8 or 9 p.m., and then you would start back up around like 12 or 1, if my math is correct, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
But that's all. I mean, it's not that hard to do.
It really isn't. And like, you did mention one of your comments, like a guy was like, oh, we already fast 8 hours or something when we're sleeping or blah, 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 right? Well, if you look at most people, a lot of people will have like a snack at night. Maybe they'll wake up, they'll have a snack, and immediately once they get up, if they even don't eat breakfast, they'll have some liquid, like juice or liquid calories or some fruit or something.
Yeah, coffee with cream and sugar. And
exactly. There's really no time where you're not digesting some type of food, where your body isn't working on that. And like it's crazy the habit change that can come from fasting. I saw someone that we know who talked about it, and he's not a fan of fasting, but he was like he mentioned that it's an individual's lazy way of dieting, to give yourself an excuse so that when you eat you can gorge yourself. That's not what we're looking at when we're thinking of fasting. When we eat post-fast, we still have a semblance of control over what we're eating, but generally you just don't eat as much food as you would typically during the whole day. Like, it's a way to have more control over that rather than eating throughout all parts of your day. It's not that difficult.
I agree 100%. And if you were to think about, maybe your average person has about 4 like kind of meals a day, but like you said, they're eating a lot of calories and stuff they're just not really paying attention to. They have a little bag of Cheez-Its, or they have, some almonds, and they have, maybe they mean well too. Like, maybe they're trying, maybe they have kind of some health, or at least what they view healthy eating habits. But they're still kind of like just munching on stuff all day, just extra calories they don't need. Now, if we only put everything into meals and we just have 2 meals a day, you have a nice advantage of doing what you just said. You have a nice advantage of feeling like you engorged yourself. I would have to say, though, what we're trying to really accomplish is, because we fasted, I know many people have experienced this before, you're not even thinking about fasting. You just didn't eat all day. And you're like, I can eat a horse. You're like, I could eat 5,000 pounds worth of food right now.
That's what you think.
And then you go to get after it, and you're like, oh my God, I'm totally full. That's a benefit of fasting, because we're trying to implement some control into our diet. So if you think about, okay, I'm taking the snacks away, which could be really brutal for somebody, but let's just say we're able to do it, take some snacks away. We're going to utilize some intermittent fasting. You're going to eat twice. Now, here's a cool thing. If you have this eating window, 6 or 8 hour eating window, you could still have the snack after dinner if you really want it.
Yeah.
I mean, I would prefer that you start to wean yourself away from snacks, but like, the eating window's open, man. Like, you can kind of go for it. Now, I'd also say, if in your head, it'd be a good idea to be like, you know what? I just want to tick back my overall energy consumption for the day by like 5 or 10%. So I'm still going to get after it for those 2 meals, but they're going to fill me up enough to the point where I could walk away from the table and be like, you know what? I had plenty of food. Maybe you feel like there's room to still stuff yourself.
Yeah.
But that's a good time to kind of excuse yourself and to start your clock. And that's another benefit of fasting. It's like, you go brush your teeth and you're like, the clock's starting. I started my fast. And this might sound weird to people, but people that experience what I've experienced when I was heavy, because I was trying to gain weight and because I got up over 300 pounds, I was constantly hungry.
Yeah.
Especially like at night. So I'd have a ferocious appetite at night. I'd end up eating stuff that I shouldn't have been eating. And then I would even wake up because I wasn't healthy enough to even sleep properly, which sounds wild, right? But there's a lot of people that suffer from that. I had sleep apnea. I'd wake up and I would, in my brain, I'd feel like I had a craving, which I really, learned later on once I started to get proper sleep that was eliminated. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I'd find myself, eating something and disrupting that whole cycle, that whole fasting. I wouldn't even fast for 8 hours, as we pointed out kind of in the beginning of the show. Something that also helped me, though, and this is even more recent, is the mouth tape. Because I'm like, my fucking mouth is taped shut. Like, at my other house, I'd go downstairs to like my pantry, and like, even if I was meaning well and just like, I'm going to have a protein shake because I trained hard, you're going to make some excuse up in your head to eat something. And I would just be like, my mouth's taped shut.
Yeah.
It's like, and like, I'm done. Just go back to fucking bed. And so that would be like, how do you set up your day to where we always talk about trying to optimize your day and make things easy for yourself, make things convenient. What about making things hard? And what about making things challenging for yourself? Like, if I want pizza, I have to drive to a place. I'll never bring pizza in my house, right? Like, what if you set up these rules for yourself?
Yeah.
The only way I can have a candy bar is to go and drive to the store and buy, you put a limit on it. You're like, I can buy 2 candy bars. I can buy 1 pint of Ben & Jerry's. And the only time you ever get any of these things is to make it harder on yourself. You got to drive out of your way to the store to go get it. Maybe by then, maybe you talk yourself out of it.
And that's one thing that, I mean, even that helped me too. Cause when I was trying to get up to 275, which I got up to, when I was trying to come back down, man, like I couldn't stop thinking about food at all times of the day. And even when I dieted down and got lighter, because I was just eating throughout the day, it was hard for me to be able to maintain that. So again, it just helped me have appetite control. But what you just mentioned right there is like super useful because I don't have any snacks in my house anymore. I don't have any fun foods or anything like that. Like if I really want it, I can go get it, but I have to work for it. And because I have to work for it, I don't do it as often as not nearly as often as I used to. So it helps so much. But you know, one cool thing that I just found out, there's a guy who's been doing like one meal a day for 2 years now. I wouldn't have expected it. Mike Rasheed.
Oh shit, yeah.
He's been doing that for 2 years now.
He
right?
talked about it a while back, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize that he's already been on that.
I think
like,
he's tried
for a
some
while.
vegan stuff too, but I don't know if he's stuck with the vegan side of things.
I don't know if he's still doing it, but yeah, he was doing the vegan and vegetarian thing. But like, yeah, it's like it sounds really, really crazy, but it works really, really well. Performance in the gym, appetite control, which is something that, again, I think a lot of people that are even in shape, if they're eating throughout a lot of the day, they're always feeling hungry. That's something I never thought would be able to have control over. And you probably never thought you'd be able to have control over that either.
Never thought it would be possible.
Right? But like, yeah, after a fast, when I eat food, I can just stop. You know, I don't feel like it's an empty pit that I need to continue to fill up. That's just not being filled. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, you get filled up a little easier, and you just learn. You're like, okay, like that's enough.
Mhm.
Whereas before, you're like, no, you feel like you really need more. Anyone's listening to this, like I don't really try to push anybody towards too many different things, but where I am going to push you is I'm going to push you to observe the amount of carbohydrates that you eat in a day, because maybe you just don't need that many. Maybe you're not as active as you may think, and maybe you're just, again, carbohydrates aren't bad. Carbohydrates are great. They taste really good. However, when in combination with other foods, you tend to want to overeat. And so you have, donuts and potato chips and some of these things that start to mix flavors and mix fat and carbohydrates together. And you have things that just taste awesome that you tend to overeat on. So I challenge you to observe the amount of carbohydrates that you're eating. And Nsima suggests this all the time. Maybe for a couple of days, just write down what you're eating. You don't have to even make any changes. Just like write it down. Take a look at it, and you're like, oh my God, I had 5 sodas. Take note of everything that you had for the day. Maybe you had 3 coffees and 3 sodas, and you're like, oh my God, that's 700 calories. So what if you could just ditch 700 calories and barely notice it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we're trying to do. And the second thing I'd urge you to do is I'd urge you to move towards some fasting. You don't have to think of like, fasting doesn't have to be a permanent diet. Fasting is just a strategy. Like, so you could say, man, I really hate fasting, and I hate that these guys even talk about it, but I'm going to give it a try, and I'm going to try 12 hours of fasting for a couple of days. Maybe you can figure out a way to do an 18 or 16-hour fast once or twice a week. That's still great. That's still better than what you had going on before. And again, why are we fasting? We're not fasting because we just want to make a post on Instagram and talk about how great we feel when we're not eating, because that sounds weird, right? We're fasting because we're trying to gain some sort of control over our diet. We're trying to gain some sort of control over our mind, because in my opinion, what I'm seeing from a lot of people, I think there's more depression, more anxiety, more suicide because of the way that we eat. And there's some people that go as far as to say it has more to do with your sleep. But I would back everybody up and say, no, our sleep is compromised because of the way that we eat. And it starts with your food at first, in my opinion. I think it starts with food, it starts with movement, and then we got sleep, because if you're not eating correctly, you won't be able to sleep. And I realize sleep is like a big thing that people talk about all the time, but you can't even get proper sleep if you're too heavy. You can't even get proper sleep if you're not feeling good all the time and you have tons of anxiety. You're not sleeping.
I have insomnia.
You're gonna have a real hard time. So I would challenge you to check your carb count. Start to try to implement some kind of fasting, even if you're like not on par with doing a 16 or 18. There's no magical thing to any of that. Try 10, 12 hours. Try what you can try, and don't think that you have to do it for continuous days on end. You can do it whenever the hell you want. And then the last piece of that is I would just say you got to walk. You know, you got to implement some of these walks because I need people. I need you to move. And what I'm hoping is, you know, you don't have to make big giant steps all the time in your life, but you do need to make a step in the right direction. And if you make the step in the right direction, you're going to be heading the right direction and gain momentum. And hopefully you're like, you know what? I did 2 10-minute walks today, and I shouldn't eat the pizza that they brought in the office because you know what? I prepped some of my food, or I'm fasting.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, I mean, that's some of the stuff that's influenced me. That's some of the stuff that's helped me. I see so many people are like, you know, they talk about driving under the influence. People are walking around under the influence. They're walking around under the influence of food. And in my post yesterday, I also talked about Freem. You know, food rules everything around me, and it rules it rules everyone around me. Like, I see it so much. You know, I have family members that are sick. It's just from food, and it's insane. And I understand the battle. It's not an easy one to try to overcome. So that's the reason why I'm so passionate about it, and that's why we talk so much on this podcast about sleeping and fasting and all this shit. And you're probably like, I'm gonna punch this guy in the face if I ever see him because I just want him to talk about some fucking powerlifting.
Yeah, I feel that.
Freem is dope though.
Yeah. But on the note of some simple things, because my girlfriend just got a new job, so she was telling me how like she's at a desk and like there's no standing desk there. A lot of companies, if you work for a company, first off, you can request for them to get you a standing desk and they can get that for you. And I don't think a lot of people know that. And that's one big change because if you realize that, like right now on all the podcasts we stand, but if you have to sit for 7 hours, like that's where a lot of like lower back pain comes from. That's where a lot of like fat accumulation around the hip area and just problems start from a lot of sitting. One simple thing along with walking is getting yourself having your company get yourself a standing desk so that you can make those adjustments and you can stand every few hours. It makes a really, really big difference for a lot of people who have those types of jobs.
And I think they have cheap alternatives, inexpensive alternatives to that too, for company owners that are like, oh shit. Because you can just put stuff on your desk. Because some people would prefer to be able to sit and stand.
Yeah.
And so, like, you can just plop something down that raises everything up. But it's a huge advantage to be standing on this podcast and to do it this way. Like, my back and my neck and, like, everything would just be wrecked if we sat here for hours on end every day, you know?
I'm surviving.
Nah, even for myself, like for the office setup that I have, like I have a desk that I can like, not a full desk, but it's like on the desk where I can raise it up and my computer raises up and I'll stand every few hours or I'll stand a few times every hour and I can bring it back down to sit down.
Yeah, they're pretty cheap on Amazon.
Yeah,
like
it's inexpensive.
Yeah. Real quick, Mark JK says it's his brother's birthday. He would love a shout out. His brother's name is Albert. That'd be cool.
Albert. Happy birthday, Albert.
Yeah.
Appreciate your brother writing into us and appreciate you guys watching the show. Thank you so much.
And then Anthony G, he was just, because I asked everybody like, hey, like what's some of the hurdles that you guys face with when it comes to fasting, or like, you know, what's some of the roadblocks? And he was just saying like the initial part of like just committing to it. So how do you get somebody who's like, I don't know, that sounds crazy, like, you know, kind of like what's the next like thing you can tell somebody that's like, hey, it's not going to be that bad. Here's where you can start.
I would just start out by not even thinking about the word fasting, because maybe that's like going to really bother you.
Yeah.
And also maybe as like a bigger guy, maybe you're thinking that you're like being a pussy because like you're on this weird diet and you're fasting or whatever. Because like, you know, power lifters and people that want to lift heavier, we're eating big. We're eating big. We're getting big. And like now you're doing this kind of alternative thing that's like not cool with your buddies or whatever. But maybe you don't even put it in the category of fasting. Maybe you just simply skip breakfast. You know, keep it real simple. Just like be like, okay, I'm not going to eat breakfast. But then in your head, you got to think about what's going to break your fast? What are you going to break your fast with? Because that's still your breakfast. So you still have to. I don't want to get people confused and think that like this is an onslaught of like eating whatever you want. And I don't know if we've mentioned that, but like I just assume that everyone knows that.
Yeah.
You certainly can't. You're not going to be able to get away with. Now, if you were super active and you ate one meal a day, Nsima could probably do something like that and be like, hey, I'm getting more jacked. And we'd all hate him. But for the most part, like most people are not going to be able to have a metabolism that would allow them to eat whatever they want.
Yeah,
What do you think about it?
Yeah, you got to ease yourself into it. I think the first thing is like, okay, you're scared to commit to it, which means that maybe you think it is going to be a little bit hard. I don't think there's a problem with realizing that it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable. It is. It was uncomfortable for me when I started. It was not easy for me because I usually didn't go that long without eating. I usually ate something in the morning, ate something in the afternoon, ate something in the late afternoon, ate something in the early evening, and then ate something in the late evening. Like I was eating all day long. So if you have a habit of eating all the time, like any other not great habit, it's hard to shift. So understanding that it's going to be a little uncomfortable is fine. But then again, like Mark said, baby steps, skip breakfast, and then maybe still eat, the same amount of food throughout the rest of your day. And then maybe move it down an hour the next day. So if you started your fast and you broke your fast at noon, okay, next day, try to go until 1. Next day, try to go until 2. Okay, next day, try to go until maybe 3. And keep that going until maybe you're at 13, 14, 15, 16 hours. And then it'll be pretty damn easy.
And you'll know you made a mistake because you'll be nose deep in a pint of Ben and Jerry's. So you'll know if you overdid it. If it's Saturday night and you went off the rails and it's like Saturday, Sunday, turns into Monday, like you know that you overfasted, and that's okay. That's just a slap on the wrist, and you acknowledge that you made a mistake and you get back to it and you say, okay, those 3 days in a row of 18-hour fast, they just didn't work. You may have completed them, but they weren't as effective, and they didn't do what you wanted to do because then you had a rebound. So that is something you got to really pay attention to. Make the fast easy in the beginning. Make it pretty simple. Try 10 hours, like that. You just basically just miss breakfast, and maybe you even slept for 10 hours.
Yeah, and even like we talk about sleep a lot, but like you mentioned, if you're not getting enough rest also, it's going to be hard to stay away from food. I mean, we all know that if you are underslept, you'll have a higher appetite. Your ghrelin's going to be secreted more. So you're going to have a tendency to feel hungry sooner and have less willpower to not eat.
And just being up for long hours, for me, like it's unconventional for me to go to bed at like 11 p.m., right? And because of that, if I was up, 9, 10, 11, you bet your ass I'm going to be eating some food. Like I'm totally going to eat some food in that time slot, because what am I going to be doing? I'm not going to be doing anything during those hours. I'm probably just going to be kind of sitting around. Maybe I'm like messing around with some work stuff, but probably just kind of like watching TV. And it's like, that's a great opportunity just to add a ton of calories to your day and to accumulate fat. So like just every once in a while, you got to tell yourself that you're going to be better in the morning for it. So sometimes you got to be like, you know what, just go to bed. Go to bed. Like have that in your head. Like go to bed, go to bed, go to bed. Just keep telling yourself, set an alarm to go to bed. Set an alarm when you want to stop eating, 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., whatever your time is. It doesn't matter your time slot, but set an alarm and be like, okay, food's off, and I need to get my ass to bed within the next hour.
Yeah, and then for those that just, Nsima said something about ghrelin. It was in Matthew Walker's book. It's just plain and simply, you don't get enough sleep. You wake up the next day feeling like you have the munchies.
Oh, yeah.
That's the easiest and simplest
hunger
way.
hormone,
Yeah, you get really, really hungry. Dustin was asking, I lost it, but he was just saying that he's a little worried about losing too much weight if fasting. He's kind of like in my situation, right? Like still trying to grow, trying to get bigger muscles and whatnot, but like where fasting comes in, like maybe is trying to lose body fat like I am, but we also don't want to get too thin. You know what I mean? So is there like a happy medium, or is it like, because I know you're supposed to lose less muscle mass when you fast as opposed to being a caloric deficit. I don't know exactly how accurate that might be. I know Mike Dolce, he crushed that, but
all this stuff will like kind of auto regulate at some point. So maybe at first, maybe you feel a little flat, maybe you feel a little different, especially if you're trying to reduce the amount of carbohydrates and stuff that you're eating too. Remember though, and it's, this is kind of, I guess, debatable, but I agree with Ken Berry. Fat and ketones are primary fuel sources, not secondary. And I think that most people are living off sugar and most people are living off carbohydrates. And I realize that those do burn faster, but if we just go through like evolution and the way that we're designed, it makes sense and it adds up, because like we don't store carbohydrates. I mean, we can store glycogen in our muscles,
Yeah.
but it doesn't last very long. We store body fat and we hold fat on our body because our body's like, hey, I might need this at some other time. You'll even turn, some of those excess calories. It can turn protein, it can turn carbohydrates into fat. And so I think that fat is a primary fuel source for you. And so once you get used to that, once you get used to fasting, I don't think it'll be any problem for you to be able to manage it. And I don't think it'll be any problem for you to manage your muscle mass either.
And let's mention one thing here. If you're trying, from what it sounds like, he's trying to cut right now, and he's scared that he's going to lose too much muscle as he's cutting because he has a fasting window and maybe he's going to be eating for 8 hours, right? The literal only thing you need to do is make sure that you're eating an adequate amount of food in that 8 hours. Primarily, especially since you're cutting, you're probably eating a little bit extra protein. So, like, let's use Andrew as an example. He's about 190 pounds. If he were to implement fasting or whatever, in his eating window, he'd still be probably getting in his 210 grams of protein or 220 grams of protein, along with his fat and his carbs. So he's still intaking the amount of food he needs to eat to make sure that as he's dropping weight and as he's dropping body fat, he's maintaining as much muscle as possible. And obviously he's going to be working out to stimulate that muscle so that he doesn't lose a lot of it, but he's eating enough to not just lose muscle tissue. Now, if it'd be different if you, in your eating window, right? You don't eat enough food. So let's say you're 200 pounds and you're only eating 80 to 100 grams of protein. Right. No matter with what, like if you were fasting or if you weren't, you would lose weight, but you would also lose a lot of muscle because you're not eating enough to maintain that muscle over time.
Right.
So it all matters into how much you eat in that eating window.
Yeah, your body needs to get the signal that you're trying to grow or trying to maintain muscle mass, and one signal that you're going to get is from training, and you're going to have to be able to recover from the training. So Stan actually pointed this out in a podcast recently that he just did. Damn it, I can't remember what podcast he was on, but he talked about how carbohydrates, they don't do for you what a lot of people think. They're not really going to necessarily help with like muscle protein synthesis. However, it does put you in an anabolic state, and it gives your body an opportunity to grow a little bit easier because your muscles are going to be more full, be easier to get a pump. Your performance might go up in the gym. Maybe you can lift a little heavier because you got a little extra body weight on you. And all those things are going to allow your body to respond better in terms of putting on muscle. So they don't have like the direct correlation that protein does to your gains. But another thing to think about with fasting is when you first start fasting, you're going to get it almost reminds me of like my kids when they were real little and they wanted me to watch them go off like a diving board or something. They'd be like, Dad, Dad. Like they do that a bunch, right? Over and over. And then they really want you to see something that they think is like sick or fun or crazy that they're doing. And they really start nagging on you, They might come over and they might hit you a couple times or something like, Dad, watch. And then you watch them and boom, there they go. Your hunger kind of feels similar to where your hunger is like knocks you or it hits you. It's like, yo, dude, like, hey, we're hungry. And you're like, shut the fuck up. Go away, and then it'll go away. It will literally magically go away sometimes. You'll notice too, one of the greatest killers of hunger is activity. So if you can occupy yourself with anything, that can help kill cravings. But if you actually work out, that'll annihilate your cravings, especially if you work out pretty hard. Sometimes you work out so hard. I'm sure sometimes after jiu-jitsu, you're like, man, I'm too
tired to eat.
I can't even eat. Like you kind of feel sick and you feel too tired and exhausted to even like figure any of it out. So just understand that hunger is going to hit you probably if you're doing a 16-hour fast and you really like food, it'll probably hit you pretty hard about 3 times, 2 or 3 times. It's going to come and it's going to keep you like, hey, you need to eat. Hey, you need to eat. And then hopefully around that 3rd time is when you get to actually feed. But they're just false alarms. You don't really need the food.
Yeah, and I love how like when John Berardi came on, that's one thing he mentioned. He literally mentioned ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone, is trainable. And like it is like over time, you won't feel as hungry because you typically are used to eating in the mornings. You don't eat in the mornings for a few days, then you don't get as strong of a, like ghrelin doesn't secrete as much in the morning, and then it maybe doesn't secrete barely at all, So it is something that is trainable over time, but you need to give yourself time to get used to that. Don't think that it's going to happen the first day. Just keep chugging away with it.
Right. And then also like fasting, our body ends up holding on the muscle pretty good when we're not eating as much and when we're fasting. And if you, oh man, I forget some of these people's names. Somebody I listened to the other day said he did a 40-day fast, and he was talking about how like in the beginning, like you might lose a little bit of muscle mass, but as you progress further, your body starts to produce ketones, and it's a kind of a protective mechanism. I'm not saying that you're not going to lose any muscle mass, because you probably will. But in general, people just eat way too much.
Yeah.
Whether it's somebody that's aspiring to be in better shape, even like Ronnie Coleman, even Jay Cutler, like could they have done a lot of what they've done with less food? They probably could have, but they probably would have had too much anxiety over that process. They probably wouldn't have trusted that process, because at that time we just didn't know as much. And I think in the future, you might see some bodybuilders shifting over to some of these methods. I know Brad Rowe utilizes a lot of intermittent fasting, and he does a lot of his nutrition under the tutelage of one of the best in the game, Chris Aceto. And it's like, I think years ago, no one would have really thought that you could utilize any sort of intermittent fasting with bodybuilding. It's to say, when I went to Hani Rambod and said, hey, I want to, I'd like to try it this way. He's like, nope. And that's mainly just because he hasn't done that before. So he's like, I can't recommend something I don't have a lot of knowledge on. But I think that you could. I think you certainly could. And maybe it wouldn't be as aggressive. Maybe you would cut down from 6 meals to 4. But I still think you can do it. And people don't need to be tripping and worry about if they're going to lose a lot of muscle mass when they fast. Because from what I've seen and from what you've seen, like you might lose a little bit, like in the process of you being from, all the way from 275 down to where you are. It's like maybe we could do a DEXA scan and we could see that you have 2 less pounds of muscle. Right?
I'm 14 pounds away from stage weight. Like, that's the thing. I already know, like, right now, I could prep, utilize fasting, maintain a fuck ton of muscle.
Is this a threat? Is he threatening us?
No, but that's,
I could blow this whole podcast up right now.
but that's the thing, man. And like, even my appetite control would be better, because in the past, this body fat would be not something that I could maintain for a long time. You know what I mean? So like, I know right now I could go on a prep. It'd probably take me 15, 18 weeks, but I could prep while fasting, get lean, be perfectly okay.
Yeah. It'd probably be easier than ever.
It would be so much easier than my past preps, Yeah. So,
Mark, I remember you were talking to me about this off air, but I don't know if you know enough about it to speak about it on air, but about fat being the number one fuel source as opposed to like a secondary.
Yeah, sometimes if we start getting too deep into science, I'll just openly admit, like, I don't know all the different mechanisms behind everything. But here's some of my basic understanding is that when you start to fast, your body is probably using up, for a typical person that hasn't been on a keto diet, your body is probably using up some sugar in your body. And then at a certain point, your body's like, hey, like we used up a lot of the sugar. And it's not like you don't have any more glycogen or glucose in your body, because you probably glycogen. Your body still probably has some sugar, and your body has the ability to make sugar. Like, that's how important sugar is to your body. Your body will just make it. And some of the keto people will just say, like, that's why we don't really need to have dietary carbohydrates, because the body will take care of it for us. People that are on the other side of the fence are like, well, that's dumb. Like, it seems some people almost view it as like harmful. Like, don't allow your body to make carbohydrates for yourself. Like, just feed yourself carbohydrates. So there's some 2 different styles of thought there. But anyway, kind of back to the question, over a period of time, if you fast, you will eventually start to produce some ketones. The ketones are supposed to be protective. They're supposed to be anti-catabolic, and there's some mechanism, I cannot remember what it's called, that is supposed to protect you from like breaking down muscle tissue, breaking down the protein in your body, and using it for energy. So that is what's supposed to happen when you when you fast. You're supposed to actually end up producing more ketones.
Yeah.
This is the reason why a ketogenic diet can be really useful to people, because when you get on a ketogenic diet, guess what it mimics? It mimics fasting. It's not the same thing as fasting, but it can mimic fasting, and especially if your calories are kind of maintenance or below, it will have a lot. And that's why with dogs and we're seeing it more often with cancer. People are utilizing a ketogenic style diet because fasting might actually be like the greatest medicine of all time, but you can't have people just fast all the time, and certainly can't have cancer patients fasting because they would eventually start to lose too much weight because they're also um, they're going under a lot of they're under a lot of stress, and their body's going to start to lose weight anyway.
Hmm. And then if like you're super active, it's going to be even easier to get into ketosis, even if you're eating a little bit of
Right.
carbohydrates while fasting, just because of like literally how much you're burning over time with that exercise. So
I think a lot of this stuff, like, and part of the reason why I don't know this is because I don't research it, first of all. But secondly, I think a lot of this stuff is like unknown. I think even like Dominic D'Agostino, who's probably like the most well-versed person when it comes to the ketogenic style diets. I don't even know if he really knows. Like, I don't know, like, if someone's on like a moderate carbohydrate diet and they're producing ketones moderately, I don't know what the impact is versus someone that religiously is not eating any. I don't know what, if there's some magnificent higher benefit, but I would doubt it.
mhm.
I think when we're talking about like health and we're talking about trying to keep your shit together and trying to feel good and have good performance in the gym, I think what we're talking about is we're trying to figure out a way to eat optimally. We definitely don't want to overindulge because a lot of times that will lead to an accumulation of body fat.
Yeah.
I don't really think anyone's really looking for body fat, even people that are trying to bulk. And that's why a bulking program and a cutting program can look similar. It's just it's just a game of like volume. When we talk about some of this nuanced stuff of whether it matters that he has 100 carbs a day and I have 30, I don't think anybody really knows much about any of that information. I think at that point, now we're talking about like preference.
Mm-hmm.
And we're also talking about activity level. Nsima burns more calories every day for multiple reasons. Your body fat percentage is better. You probably have a little bit more muscle mass than I do, and you're doing jujitsu. So it's like your calorie output per day could be, 500. It could be 1,000. Who knows? Like, I don't really, maybe because you're younger too, right? There could be multiple reasons. And so I think you have to think for yourself in terms of like, what do you like to do? What foods do you like? If you really love fruit, there's absolutely no reason to pull out fruit. If you really love potatoes, you really love rice, the only reason to pull them out would be if you're heavier than you want to be. And you're like, you know what? Like, I just can't eat rice because I eat too much of it. We talked to Andrew yesterday about cheese. And I was just like, and it was hard for me to even say it because I love cheese. I was like, don't eat cheese. And it was just.
Why, he overindulges on cheese?
Yeah, well, he was just saying like how we were just saying fat calories, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So a slice of cheese is like 7 grams of fat, and it's like you do that times 3, and now you
Yeah.
got 21 grams of chub in your
Yeah.
diet that maybe you didn't need,
Yeah, cheese to me is just one of those things where it's like, oh, I'm having a hamburger. Yeah, I'm going to throw some cheese on there. It's like, I'm going to go for 2 slices. And then it's like, right, yeah, but I'm having like 6 different patties. So it's like, it's fine. But then when actually, right, like you pay attention to it, it's like, oh, my fat macros, they're already
Yeah.
done for the day. And
And-
that was one
right.
meal. And I still have the rest of the day to do it, like,
Yeah.
to live.
Yeah, and think about like a 90% lean burger might taste great, but it's really probably only tastes great if you put stuff on it.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your options for putting stuff on it? You got to either put carbs on it, which would be like ketchup, right? Or you got to put fat and protein on it, which would be like cheese. And there's nothing wrong with any of those things. You put cheese, bacon, avocado, you put all this stuff on there, and it will taste great. And those things aren't bad for you by any means, but they could just add up.
Yeah.
Andrew, have you ever like experimented with keto for yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
just didn't. Okay.
I did it, and so this was when me kind of like telling you guys like, oh, prove me wrong, like I can't get abs. It was like I think 4 or 5 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
I followed a really strict keto diet for like 6 months, and it was only just to do it. Like, let's see what this is all about, because back then it wasn't too popular.
Yeah.
There wasn't really many even like companies making keto stuff, so
Mm-hmm.
it was a little tricky. It was just cool to just like I said, just to experience something different. But I had dropped down to like 155 pounds. I was doing it very much incorrectly.
Yeah.
That was like the whole like, oh, I can't have too much protein because then it's gonna knock me out of ketosis.
Okay.
I gotta eat tons of fat, and I dropped down to, like I said, 155 pounds, still with a big belly. A totally different place lifestyle wise and whatnot. So like didn't have a lot of muscle or anything.
Yeah.
But at that time, I felt okay. I didn't feel fantastic, but I was like, oh, this is just because I'm following a diet.
Yeah.
More recently, a couple weeks ago, I followed a strict keto diet again, and my stomach was like, hey, bro, this is way different than the vertical diet. We don't like this. And so, like, I just felt sick, hungry all the time, and I was just running to the bathroom constantly. Yeah.
Okay.
Was that like, did you have a lot of excess fat, you think, in the diet when you were trying it that way? Like more recently?
More recently? No, I was getting rid of all like excess carbs. Like the only time,
I guess what I'm wondering is like maybe you went from like say about 100 grams of fat a day to like 250 or something.
yeah,
Or maybe even went from like 100 grams of fat to like 200 grams of fat, but maybe in addition to that you had an extra 75 or 100 grams of protein, which could, you know, bother just about anybody's stomach if they're just not used to it.
yeah. I mean, like I was cooking stuff in like more like fatty oils. I was having fattier cuts of steak. I was also having coffee with heavy cream, and you know,
yeah.
my stomach
Oh.
with heavy cream. I know
Yeah.
it's bad. I was really mild and moderate with it because I understand how bad that is for my stomach.
Yeah.
But it was just a combination of things, like, you know, for lunch, having steak with no rice versus ground beef with rice. Like my body just, I don't know. It's
Well,
really
probably
hard.
when you eat the combination of ground beef and rice, you're probably eating less beef, so you're probably eating less fat, you know? So, you know, if we were to try to play around with it again or even get you close to like a keto diet, I think if we just didn't have a crazy amount of fat in there,
Yeah.
you'd probably be okay.
Yeah, and then as of right now with the this week of fasting, I definitely feel like I'm getting like the keto breath. Like, so I feel like
Yeah.
maybe I'm hopping into ketosis more so than I was even then,
Yeah.
because I'm just like, man, what's going on here? Like, can I chew on some gum or something? Like,
Fucking body, you're dying from the inside out, man.
yeah, yeah. And then even after I do start eating, I can still I still have that like, oh, I gotta go brush my teeth again. Like, what's going? Do I need a new toothbrush? What's happening? And then yesterday I was talking to my
Dude.
fiance. I'm just like, oh, I think I'm getting keto breath.
Speaking of brushing your teeth, we got to get this guy on the podcast. I found a guy that hasn't brushed his teeth, he said, in
God.
10 years. Because he
We
said,
don't want him.
I know. Yeah, he's gonna melt our microphone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
He had a lot
God.
of really interesting stuff to say, but basically he just said, you know, a toothbrush is just like a modern tool. Like we don't really we don't necessarily need that. Now, I'm sure you can go back and cavemen probably pick their teeth with certain things, but the evolution of a toothbrush is for what? Is to brush away basically carbohydrates from our teeth. Sugar.
Oh,
Sugar is what accumulates on your teeth.
Is he a keto guy?
He's a keto guy, yeah.
Oh, that's got to be interesting.
He's a keto proponent. But basically, he just said, like, if you have a lot of other levels of stuff in your body, vitamin D and some of these things. So he recommended some vitamins and minerals to go along with your diet. But basically, he just mainly suggested that, you know, you rid yourself of carbohydrates. He talked about the link between heart disease and tooth decay. And you're like, I never heard anyone talk about, but of course, you got teeth rotting out of your head. You have you got high inflammation of your gums. Well, of course, you have problems with your heart, and of course, that means that you've probably been eating, you know, foods that are going to negatively impact and influence your insulin levels, your hormones in your body. It's going to cause plaque, right? The plaque on your teeth. They say, from what I was understanding, a lot of the plaque on your teeth is similar to the plaque that builds up in your arteries and builds up in a similar fashion. And it has to do with, again, it's not just sugar. Again, it's excess calories. But in this case, when we're talking about teeth, it's pretty much just from sugar.
Wow.
yeah. Well, like
I wonder
kind
what
of.
is- yeah.
Yeah, kind of how we've been saying, like, oh, these like you know, third world countries are so lucky because they don't have like McDonald's and whatnot. But if you look at like the teeth in those countries, they're all really healthy.
Actually.
Yeah.
Well,
It's kinda crazy.
until
and they
but
like
it-
chew on sticks to brush their teeth.
Well, yeah, but it's until our influence comes in. You know, when we try to help out another country. and we send over food. It's like, what do we send? We're not
Very caloric dense food or packets of food, which
Mhm.
are a lot of carbs, a lot of carbohydrates.
Yeah, we're not sending over, stuff that's probably, we're sending over stuff that benefits us. Really, it's I mean, you don't want to make it a political thing, but like that's these government things, these handshakes and stuff like that, they get made because this guy's making money off of this. This guy, I mean, we are still helping, and some food's better than none, but we're probably, I guess, almost in a sense, doing more harm than good in some cases.
Yeah, Jamie Foxx on a old stand-up, he's like, we're sending. This was like during 9/11 and all that. He's like, people are dying by bombs and food. He's like, because
God.
we're dropping food off, and it's like, it's killing people, and it's like, oh no, my son, he got killed by the poisonous pot roast. It's so funny, but
Oh man.
yeah, it's terrible, man, because somebody's making money somewhere.
Yeah. You guys remember the Amazing Fasting Fat Man? No?
Oh,
Okay.
is this
so
a guy who fasted for like
150
days?
days.
Oh,
150-day water fast. He lost 230 pounds.
yeah, I've heard about this.
He
before,
started
yeah.
at 4 something, I think, and went down to obviously 2 something right now. And it's crazy, man.
That's insane.
What like, and that's just like pure water fasting for 150 days because he had so much fat on his body that he could just maintain that until, like, obviously he's continuing to lose, but it's
Yeah, you bring up
obviously-
you bring up a good point. So if we go back to Andrew's original question, basically your body, you have enough storage of stuff on your body to handle. I mean, most people, even somebody in a lower body fat percentage, could probably go a couple days without eating and be totally fine and not have muscle and not have lost muscle. Like, we wouldn't be here if we didn't have that ability. We just wouldn't have made it from an evolutionary standpoint. So that's a great reference, is that, like, yeah, you got sandwiches and shit on your body
yeah.
that you can kind of rely on at any time. You got a meatball sub on your body that you can tap into those reserves.
Oh, I love a meatball sub though.
How's the first couple? Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. We
got to get this dude on the podcast.
He's really
Oh,
awesome.
Fat Man.
Yeah, the Amazing Fasting Fat Man.
I get it.
And like every single video is so dope because he's like, and the Amazing Fasting Fat Man flies through, and he prefaces everything like a comic book, and it's just so dope the way he does what he's doing. But I mean, yeah, it's
Wow.
if you like you, I mean,
That's
at this
wild.
point, I've gone a few days. There's a few days here and there where at the end of the day, I ate and I realized I've had no carbs and everything's been good. Even the next day, my workouts were good. So it's like, as an athlete, again, you can utilize them, and you definitely should if you're maybe if you're going into an athletic event or something. But I don't think it's absolutely as necessary as I used to for athletes.
How's the first couple days and stuff, Andrew, been for you? What are you on, day 4 or something now? 5?
I don't know what is today.
Today's Thursday.
Yeah, so day 4. I'm noticing the hardest part so far is the morning after a fast.
Because of the boner,
There's that.
the morning wood.
I keep bumping into things, knocking lamps over and
Yeah.
It's
stuff.
that Congo.
Yeah, that's that 1% Congo in me. But the like throughout the day, it's not too bad. Once I get over the hump of being, there's that boner again, of being hungry. So it's like day 1 was like, I accidentally fasted for like 20 hours today. I didn't mean to do that. The next day I was like, ooh, like I can definitely feel the hunger. And then the third day I was like, okay, I'm definitely hungry, but I'm fine. I was telling Nsima, I'm like, my relationship with food's a little bit different than everyone else. Like, I love that I'm not eating throughout the day because, one, I get a shit ton of more work done, but also, like, I just don't enjoy it. Like, it's not fun. Now, if I'm eating pizza and fries and hamburgers and stuff, like, oh yeah, like let's get weird, let's eat. But like, like, again, like just eating carbless food is like, I'd rather just like keep fasting.
Your morning routine, are you still shitting all the time?
Yes. Yeah, because
And that, I think that'll like dry up a little bit too, though.
yeah. Are they drying up? No, they're still pretty wet. Yeah. There's still a lot of moisture coming out.
I still think you need to get it all checked out, buddy.
I do, but I don't even know where to start.
We've had people on the podcast.
I know, but like
offer to help.
Gabrielle Lyons in New York, like
That's okay. Just hit her up. She'll give you somebody to go to.
okay. All right, I'll do that. But
Slide into her DM. We won't tell on you.
Okay. No,
No, maybe not.
Steph doesn't. I hope she doesn't.
Never
listen to
mind.
this.
She's listening.
She's
right now.
listening.
Sorry,
Hi,
Steph.
hi, Steph.
I didn't mean it that way.
We meant it in a totally cordial
Different
way.
way.
Just cordial.
Trying to get help with his
Friendly.
butt. I mean, wow. Okay.
Oh, boy.
So we really
This is
slid
going to
down.
be awkward later.
Yep. You're gonna get in so much trouble, and it's all my fault.
One thing I am having trouble with, and this is what I've had trouble in the past with fasting, is just eating enough in my feeding window.
Mm-hmm.
Last night, I opened up the window even further, and I looked down because I am tracking, and I still had 600 calories left to go, and I still had like 7 grams of protein, and then tons of carbs and tons of fat.
I think if you feel okay though, then just
Honestly, that's not that big of a deal.
Oh,
If you
okay.
hit your protein,
Yeah.
like still try to maybe hit your calories, but on a day like that, if you're not feeling hungry anymore, don't go scarf.
I
down
think it will
food.
just help you get leaner faster. Honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was the thing. Like I'm full. Like I'm like, oh boy. Like okay, I look over. I'm like, oh, there's hard boiled eggs. I can do the bagel seasoning, like Mark said. I'm like, man, but then I look at the clock and I'm like, okay, shit, it's already like past 8 o'clock.
Mhm.
So I'm like, it's probably not worth it. But again, just trying to learn and stuff. I ended up just eating like a protein bar. And I'm like, this is probably not the smartest thing to do right now, like just because the number on my tracker says that it's low.
Yeah.
But again, like I'm just, kind of like the guy that had asked, like I don't want to lose too much muscle, like too fast. But again, this is all a learning experience for me.
No protein bars.
Yeah, I know, and that's the thing. I'm like, that's so stupid of me.
He owes us 10 push-ups.
I'm down. I can do that.
Yeah. Like no, but like again, adequate amount of protein. Like if you're not feeling that hungry, and actually that's kind of a good thing. If you're not feeling voraciously hungry as you're trying to lose body fat, just stop. You've hit your protein. You had an adequate amount of carbs and fat. Your appetite's telling you that you don't need to eat anymore. Stop eating.
Yeah,
And it's
If-
also
yeah.
pretty normal to feel like you should feel a little hungry. It's very normal when you're starting to drop body fat. So as you go through the process, I mean, you shouldn't be like crazy, but you should be a little hungry. Something that we didn't point out earlier in the show, I don't think, is that what you'll find is that on days when you do have breakfast and days that you do eat a little something, it really sparks your appetite.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And now you're really like, oh shit. And so, I think there's on those days, just don't even bother. Just don't even bother fasting. But something else you can even try, and this is what I do very often. Sometimes I'll eat my breakfast at home and I just wait till I get back home again. So it's like that's still some fasting that's going on. It's the equivalent of like what I would normally do. It's just minus like it's not an elongated fast because it's not progressing onward from my sleep, but it's still like 6 or 8 hours. It's still going many hours without any food. And so I think never mind all the fasting and never mind just the whole conversation that we really just had. Try only eating at home because you're probably home twice a day. So that'd be 2 meals.
Yeah.
You can have breakfast and you can have dinner. Get after it in those meals, but try to make them healthy. Try to stick with, if you want like actual foods, try to stick with, meats and rice and potatoes, eggs, and you got vegetables, you got fruit, right? It's like stick with that shit. And if you do that twice a day and you eat each time that you're home, you eat before you leave the house and you eat when you get back, should be good to go. And try not to eat out for a couple days. Try to do that for a week. You know how hard that would be for some people to not eat out for a whole week. Like it's people eat out all the. A lot of times I was helping out Wayne, our buddy Wayne from Dutch Bros, with his diet. And I said, hey man, send me some pictures of your food. And every like I just didn't have the conversation with him. I told him what to eat, and I never told him about like not eating out. I never said anything about it. And every picture was like he was eating out, and I was like, you can get healthy, you can get in shape by eating out, but they're going to add in a lot of calories that there's just really, it's not a great way to equate for it. So my recommendation would be to try to take everything home, do the best you can for as long as you can. Then when you start to lose weight and you have momentum and you feel like you know what you're doing, you know what you're talking about, then you can start to kind of angle your way out and eat out a little bit more. And one more thing on this note is that it is really, really hard to find healthy carbohydrates when you go out to eat. Some places have potatoes. Some places have rice. Some places might have pancakes. Some places might have like toast. Some places might have this and that. But really, in my opinion, the only thing you can get and you can be sure that it doesn't have a bunch of crap on it is fruit. because your potatoes are more than likely, like you get like hash browns or you get a potato at most restaurants, it's going to be sopped in some sort of oil, or it's going to be like, cooked with butter and a bunch of other crap.
Unless you tell them, like, make me a baked potato. You have to say, make me a baked potato, nothing on it. They'll do that.
Baked potato is golden. And that might be the only like starchy, kind of slow acting carb that you might be able to find. And if you're a carb guy and you like carbs, it's like you might be able to eat a little bit of bread. I don't really have an issue with bread, but usually it accompanies, other stuff. You're dipping it in oil or putting butter on it. Anyway, just a side note for people that like to go out to eat. And that's why I've been such a proponent of the ketogenic diet. To me, it's easier to be on a keto diet when you go out to eat than it is to be on a diet where I have to kind of watch the fat calories, because in my opinion, there's like two ways to eat. One is where you have your kind of fats and protein pretty high and the carbs are low, or you drop the fat calories down and you have the protein and carbs, to wherever your needs kind of fit. And so to try to eat low fat and to eat out often is really, really, I don't think people even understand. A fucking salad could have 30 grams of fat.
It's super difficult. Yeah.
Easily,
Dude, a
too.
salad could have
Yeah.
30, 40 grams of fat. It's like, oh, I just got the Caesar salad for lunch. It's
This
like you
place
just ate.
has the best salads.
Yeah. Oh, it's my most hated thing. Yeah, and it's like you just ate 40 grams of fat.
Yeah.
Like, is the salad worth 40 grams of fat? I don't think so. I don't think there's any vegetable that's worth that,
I had
I'd
a
rather
salad-
have it in my steak.
I had a salad last night with lemon juice and salt. It was so good. I've never.
It's great.
It's
Really?
so good.
I've never
Well,
tried that.
Because we had Primal Kitchen dressing.
Okay.
Not sure if maybe it's in like an old one or something. But
Oh, yeah,
like,
no, they get weird.
this
Avocado oil.
one got weird. And so I didn't want to risk it. And so I'm telling Steph, I'm like, I think I'm just going to do lemon and salt. And she's like, really? And I'm like, well, think about it. Like when we go to Chipotle, what do? We put lemon and salt on our bowl,
Yeah.
and it makes everything taste great. And sure enough, dude, it was like, I was kind of looking at it like, damn, I might go back for more just because it tasted so good.
Wow.
But I ended up
People-
just, yeah.
People need to try this. Just take some spinach out of like whatever thing you buy spinach from and just fucking stick it in your mouth and just eat it and like taste it. Like, I don't think people even know, like, spinach tastes pretty goddamn good. Or like an almond by itself,
Yeah.
an almond that's not roasted, that doesn't have anything on it. You can taste all the flavors. And I think we get desensitized to a lot of these things and don't have any idea. So if you take, arugula or spinach or some vegetables, you put a little bit of like olive oil on it, you squeeze some lemon on it, throw some salt on it. It tastes fucking awesome.
Yeah. My thing for eating spinach, though, is I just put it in a big ass omelet.
Oh,
Yeah, there you go,
Heck
yeah.
I just like chop up a bunch of spinach, like,
It just disintegrates
It-
right before your eyes.
and
You're
yeah, I try not to cook it too long, but I use a bunch of spinach in an omelet.
yeah.
Because like when I eat spinach, it just takes so long to chew.
Yeah.
Man. Like it's good. But
Yeah.
It just takes so long to chew.
Yeah, it takes forever to chew. Well, people might not even like the flavor of it, but my point is just learn like what that is supposed to even taste like.
Yeah.
Because most of the time it's got a bunch of stuff on it.
You're right.
And if you want to try to mask it and hide it, like that's a great way to do it. You cook it with something. Cooking vegetables down is great, especially spinach, because it's like starts out like this and like shrinks down. You're like, what happened to my spinach?
You can get in a lot. Just make sure not to overcook it, because apparently like you'll get rid of some of the potassium and other like
Yeah,
minerals
you're-
that are in it. So just like don't overcook
You're
your
probably
spinach.
annihilating it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I was gonna say is like you prescribe me to do 10-minute walks like in the morning when I wake up, and then again at night. I'm finding that at night I really like it. If I would imagine if I did have like any sense of hunger, it would get rid of it. But even just like a lot of stuff happens throughout the day, and then my back's always been an issue. I can feel when I'm walking on the treadmill, because I'll walk on a pretty steep incline, like my back feels like it's just like there's a lot of pressure coming off of it. And so I go from that either straight into a shower, then sleep, or just straight to bed. And I mean, I think I've been sleeping pretty damn good, because I
Yeah.
haven't heard too many complaints
Yeah.
from Steph. But yeah, so that alone has been really nice, especially in the morning. It is a little colder now, but it's just nice to move. And that's what Mark was talking about when he was saying, one way to get rid of the hunger. He said to move around, get active. You don't have to do much. You can just go for a walk, and it'll get rid of your hunger.
Yo, Andrew, I am curious about this though, man, because like we did mention the standing desk thing. How many hours are you sitting in your desk?
A lot.
Huh. Have you ever thought about that? Because like you've had the back issues and stuff,
Mhm.
right? And you sit for a lot of hours. Yeah, you might go and take walks here and there, but you are sitting for a lot of hours.
It's safe to say that I've sat for 15 years.
Mm.
I've had 3 jobs in a row where I'm sitting down for 8 to 10 hours a day.
Yeah. It might.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, man. I think like
This,
it
Oh,
might.
burn more calories too.
Yeah, you burn more calories, but I think like it'll really help your back up because for the periods of time that I didn't have I was maybe sitting down to work at my computer for hours. Immediately the next week, my back would start being hecka stiff.
Yeah.
I can't move around as well.
Well, you see how much we move around up here. Like we start to get a little uncomfortable. We shift.
Yeah.
Right,
But we got the ability to kind of do it because of where we're at.
Yeah,
Mhm.
this desk isn't quite set up for something that I can do a sit to stand, but maybe I'll
Yeah.
just get another workstation or something.
Mm,
Yeah.
I think that would help a lot, man.
Yeah. Okay, let me see here.
Cool.
Good shit, boys.
Wait, pause.
Yep.
Pause.
I was watching a little bit of the Game Changers this morning. Have any like
I haven't seen it
you
yet.
haven't seen it yet? Have you
I
seen
just-
parts of it or no?
No, I haven't seen any of it yet.
And Andrew, you haven't seen any of it yet either.
No, we were talking about it earlier, and my fiance Stephanie was like, "Oh, it's on Netflix now.
Yeah.
Do you want to watch it?" I'm like, I don't know. We have our daughter Jasmine right here.
What a negatively influence.
I don't want her to see it and think that meat is bad. Now, I'm not saying like I don't know exactly what it is or what I'm not
Yeah.
saying that going meatless is a bad thing. I just don't want like something to be said that sticks with her head, like in her
Mhm.
in her head for forever, and be like, oh no, like I can't have meat because X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So I haven't watched it. I will watch it though.
I'm trying to go into it and I am going into it with an absolutely open mind because I'm trying not to let my biases get in my way. So I'm just trying to see what they're saying, look up some things, and just doesn't mean I'm going to change, but I don't want to look at it too negatively to shut me off and be like, this whole thing is stupid. But there were already just some weird things that have been said in that documentary, man.
I am immediately turned off by the concept of it, at least from what I've seen from like clips of it. It looks like they have these people that, they got like a strongman guy and they got these people that do different things. And they're like, here's our examples. And I'm like, that's crap. I mean, there's so many, it's like that doesn't really prove much of anything, but I understand the reason or the point of it. But
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how they spin that because it's like when it comes to nutrition, it gets to be really, really hard to identify how important it really is in a person's life in regards to everything that a person does.
Mhm.
I've seen people achieve extraordinary things having absolutely no regard for nutrition. I've seen people lift weights that you can't even possibly imagine, eating peanut butter cups and Snickers bars and like all kinds of stuff. Your food is obviously a huge influence, and I'm a big fan of eating properly and stuff like that. But to try to identify it to health outcomes and to performance outcomes, it's actually more difficult. It's way more difficult than people understand. It really is tough, and that's why even the best scientists in the world, they'll be like, okay, well, that was a study and it was done on mice. Okay, that was a study, it was done on 90-year-old people. Okay, that was a study, it was done on college kids. Because there's so many other factors in a person's life that play into somebody becoming like a LeBron James or a Michael Phelps. And remember, Michael Phelps, they're like, oh, he eats 10,000 calories a day.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, like when did that evolution start? When did he even care about? Michael Phelps didn't care about food probably until he was on a podium somewhere. Like he's probably already a champion. He's probably already going to whoop your ass, but now he was looking for that edge. You look at like Tom Brady. Like Tom Brady was already a Division I athlete, already really great. Yes, he needed to like alter his body composition and do other things, so he started eating different. You know what I mean? But it's like those things they're big over a long period of time for people.
Yeah.
But to try to even say like meat does this and this does that is really, really hard unless we see it happen time and time and time and time again with a lot of people. So hopefully the movie kind of explores, more than just these couple people that they follow around.
Yeah, no, there's so far been a very large negative meat bias, obviously, in that documentary. Like 2 examples, they used Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz, and it was the one where Nate beat Conor. You know how Nate is a vegetarian? Remember how Conor was talking about how he's like eating 2 steaks a day, and they were trying to like paint the picture in a way that, oh, why did Nate beat Conor? Well, it's because he wasn't eating meat. Like they literally went there.
Well, and Conor McGregor went up 2 weight classes.
Like, and then at the very beginning of the documentary,
That's crazy.
He fought a bigger person.
Yeah. At the very beginning of the documentary, there was kind of an appeal to the past because apparently they dug up some bones of old Roman soldiers, which they nicknamed something, but I forgot the name of it. But the meaning of those Roman soldiers was meat and barley muncher, and apparently, when
Muncher.
hey
now.
I wish I remembered the name, but yeah, that was the type of soldier they were. So they were vegetarian soldiers, and apparently their bones had a higher amount of like something called, I don't know, it started with an S, but it just showed like when they burned the bones that burned red had a higher content of whatever that was. And that was because they were vegetarians. And then other individuals that ate meat or carnivores weren't as strong or weren't as, so it's already being pushed in that direction.
Well, and who knows how the people lived back then? Maybe the people that mainly ate meat just were like, maybe they didn't have that much food, period. Like maybe they were just like malnourished. You really don't know.
That's
You know what I mean? And
that's a big thing to think about. Most people were not even eating that much food.
Right.
Most people weren't rich like that.
And maybe the soldiers are getting well fed because they needed to be like ready to go. Dr. Ken Berry, when he was on the show, he pointed out like what carbohydrates are good for and what some of these grains and barleys and things are good for. And I thought that was amazing. He was like, you want to keep soldiers alive and you want to keep your crew like strong, then like feed them carbohydrates because it's going to be an inexpensive way for a king to keep like his supporters and his people around him, strong and healthy for the stuff that they're doing. Otherwise, raising cattle and slaughtering things and like these are more expensive means. And can you feed everybody a filet mignon every night, or can you feed everybody like high-priced meat every day, or can you just feed them a bunch of rice?
Yeah,
feeding people a bunch of rice is going to be a lot easier, and really all you're trying to do is have them survive and have a sustainable life, and you can certainly do that with those types of foods. But they're not the best sources of energy, in my opinion.
I do think though, on a contrary side, there is going to be an overall benefit of this documentary. And the reason why I say that is this. If an average American watches this, which most people maybe not, they don't pay attention to nutrition, they're going to watch this. The documentary is continuing to make sure that people understand that even on a vegan or vegetarian diet, you have to get enough protein, right? So they're making sure that people understand that. If people move from a standard American diet to this while getting enough protein and making sure that they get in, their iron and B12, they will be healthier than their standard American diet. That is true. You know what I mean? So like, I think at the end of the day, there will be an overall benefit from this, but you still need to be able to sift through some of the bullshit that's being said about meat.
And remember, I've said this before too, what you don't eat might be just as important as what you eat.
Yeah.
So like if this helps people to get away from junk, and maybe people make some purchases too. Andrew and I were just in conversation about this the other day. Andrew sent me over something and he was like, hey, should I get this? I was like, fuck yeah. And the reason why I said it is because like I know he's behind it. I know he's about it. So like, yeah, go get it. Like, because if you feel that that's going to give you a boost and now you're pumped about it, you receive it in the mail and you start to utilize it in your training program, it's like, that's great. These people that are getting on these vegan diets and stuff, and people that are going to, dump more green products into their lifestyle, and they're going to mix up shakes and stuff. Maybe that's not bad for them for, the few months that they try it, or maybe they try it for a long time. And every morning they mix up some greens and they, mix up, some of these, they become like juicers or whatever, and they start to incorporate some vegetables and fruit into their diet. Maybe I think that's great.
Yeah.
I think that's a good start for a lot of people. And if they're pumped about it and excited about it, then that's even better.
Yeah, and I know you were talking about it earlier, but Pamela was just saying on the live chat that if you guys have seen Sean Baker's like review or critique
not yet.
of,
I haven't seen it yet.
No.
I can't wait to watch
Oh,
it
okay,
after I
yeah.
watch
That's
the
our
doc.
homework. We need to watch. We need to watch the movie, and we need to watch the Dr. Baker's review of it and stuff, and we'll get back to everybody. We'll do a whole show on it.
that'll
Yeah.
be sick. Yeah.
That'll be fun.
Ooh, we could even cut up clips and then post it on the podcast too.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be
gonna be
sick.
good.
Yeah. Bam.
Where can people find you, Andrew?
At I am Andrew Z on Instagram, and I was just telling somebody in the live chat because he said that he's gonna hop on the Let's Get Abs by Christmas train.
Hey now.
And so I told him like, hey, I'm gonna post like my macros, my workouts, everything there. So if you guys want to follow along, it's at I am Andrew Z. And you guys heard us talk about Piedmontese. You heard us talk about Perfect Keto and Quest. If you guys want to look for or dig deep and find some more information about that, all of the links and promo codes and everything will be in the description wherever the hell you are listening or watching this.
Where can people find you?
I am at Nsima Inyang on Instagram and
You
YouTube.
look different today.
Do I?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
weird.
we got a Samuel L. Jackson reference.
I told you. I'm just trying to trigger my inner wealthy man. Twiddling mustache.
I don't think
That's
he
what
looks
I
like.
was for.
Is
Do
it just
rich
because
people
he's black?
What?
Oh, the Samuel L. Jackson?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. Oh yeah, this is Samuel L. Jackson. This is
Yeah.
how he dresses.
Yeah.
See, Samuel L. Jackson's wealthy. I'm emulating that, man.
I still see the Wesley Pipes, too.
Wesley Pipes
Yeah.
and Samuel L. You know,
Is that a porn?
probably.
It's got to
It
be
is.
somewhere.
It is
Yeah.
now.
Probably is.
Search his Pornhub.
But yeah, at Nsima Inyang, Nsima Inyang on Instagram and YouTube.
He's got a sexy voice.
No, it's
Doesn't
the
he?
best.
I'm just gonna call you in the middle of the night.
You already do.
Oh, whoops. I'm at Mark Spelly Bell, and strength is never a weakness. Weakness never strength. Catch y'all later.